I'm here, of course, to talk about technology, and as I think we just experienced, technology isn't always a good word, right? And let me just share with you a personal bias I have, and that is the only thing that's really going to save us from ourselves is ourselves. And what I mean by that is really behavioral efficiency. We've been talking about efficiency, but how do we change the way we behave, and specifically within the transportation sector? So at the risk, first of all, I would ask all of you to be honest about responding to this question. And at the risk of embarrassing some of you, I'd like to know how many people in this audience reach this location using public transit. That is very impressive. So, and I will raise my hand as well. But what this speaks to is that given the trends in the global marketplace and the growth in India and China of the middle class, that technology is great, it has a role to play, but in the long term, the real danger for all of us and for our global, the health of our global environment is vehicle miles traveled. And we have to drive those numbers down. And in order to do that, all the technology in the world is not going to make transportation or movement accessible. And the way we build our cities is absolutely critical. And so, in spite of the fact I'll talk about technology, and I'm very excited about it, AC Transit's excited about being a leader in this new technology, we have to design our cities so that we can live more efficiently. And one other point I would make with this is that in the Bay Area, roughly speaking, in the commute hour, about 9% of all trips are on public transport. And those of us who are in public transit business like to say, well, gee, we have an increase in ridership. That's a good thing. It isn't a good thing unless there's a modal shift. Because if more people are riding public transit, but then more people are taking cars to and from work or making their trips, that's not going to solve our problem. So with that, let me quickly go through our slides. I think most of you, since you are heavy transit users, are aware of AC Transit, so I won't go into those details. And the fact that we are a big part of the transit service system within the Bay Area. AC Transit has been working on fuel cell technology for over 10 years now. And just briefly, for those who are not quite familiar with this technology, it's basically a chemical reaction. It's not a combustible use of hydrogen. It does require hydrogen, and that's one of the challenges because it's hydrogen, while plentiful in the universe, it's not free. But with a fuel cell which can command upwards to 60% efficiency compared to 20% efficiency for an automotive engine, it can result in some real, what we call well-to-wheel benefits. And the only emission out of the tailpipe is steam. So with that, let me take you through the stages of our program. First stage of our program, which pretty much concluded this last year, was $21 million program. We had 26 partners, a number of these companies as well in the Bay Area. The results of that program, where we just ran 3 buses, we carried almost 270,000 people, put on 270,000 miles, carried over 700,000 passengers, but we realized 60% better fuel economy over a comparable diesel bus, even though the fuel cell bus is, in this particular case, was 8,200 pounds heavier than the diesel bus. And even though we were in partnership with Chevron using natural gas as a means of hydrogen production, we still reduced well-to-wheel our greenhouse gases by 43%. And as I'll explain later, if you can make hydrogen with solar or wind or biomasses, you have a zero emission of carbon. The public, in surveys we did with the Federal Transit Administration, love the buses. And I can say that, A, as an obvious advocate and a program manager, B, as a passenger, because I do ride public transit every day. I do believe in the bus, and I forgot to make that message, which if many of you are familiar with, be sure to get on the bus as you consider your trip making. And C, I can make that comment because I actually have a Class B license and I can drive these vehicles, not to carry passengers in revenue service, but certainly to understand what the benefits are from a performance standpoint. Phase 2 of our program is now a regional program, and we're working with Muni, BTA, Samtrans, Golden Gate. We're going from 3 to 12 buses. Now that's not a big number from the standpoint that we operate 600 buses, but it's showing steady progress in technology development. And we're going to be sharing the operation of these buses in these different service areas. So it isn't just AC Transit doing this program. First generation design, presumably with the heavy ridership amongst this group. Some of you rode these buses. I had the opportunity to ride as a passenger to work on occasion, and they were very popular. But there's been two other versions of this, and we're now in the third generation design of this vehicle, of which we've now put on, since late last year, 28,000 miles on these vehicles. Why are they different? They're 5,000 pounds lighter. We're using lithium-ion technology, which quite honestly was one of the biggest reliability problems with the first generation buses, where we were using a different battery technology. And I'm a fan of battery electric vehicles, I'm a fan of plug-ins, but don't think for a moment that there are not challenges with battery electric energy systems. And that's been one of our challenges, and with our new battery systems, we're seeing evidence of far better reliability, far better performance with the vehicle. Number of other factors that changed in the design of this new vehicle. So let me go to the next step. Before I skip to the next one, let me just say, and I did skip over one of the other slides, our drivers really like to drive these new vehicles for several reasons. One, because they're air conditioned, and they do have a really good, robust air conditioning system. But they also have far more power for acceleration from the first generation vehicle. So the drivers really like the performance of the vehicle. And as one driver, 30-year plus driver said, it's like Disneyland in the real world. And that, of course, is a very good testimonial you'd like to take wherever you go and whatever you talk about. In order to operate these buses, we have several fueling operations. This is the one in Oakland, which is a temporary fueling system with Air Products. Here's our new station in Emeryville that's under construction. And what's really important about this new station is that we're going to make a third of the fuel with solar electrolysis. We have other features incorporated in this station where it will fuel not just our buses, but cars that will be operated by customers, consumers in the Bay Area with these three OEM manufacturers. Here's the station that we will be developing at our Oakland Seminary division that will be pretty much a mirror image of the other station. But what's really important about this station is we just received a $6 million grant to install stationary fuel cells. And the significance of that is we are going to take this entire operation, which is our largest operating division, off the PG&E grid in terms of electrical grid. We will use either local landfill gas or direct biogas as credits, as renewable energy credits, to run these stationary fuel cells. These stationary fuel cells run at about 55% efficiency compared to net efficiency of grid power that you and I draw from the outlets in the walls of our homes and businesses, which is about 39% efficiency, even with the best performing natural gas generators. So we're going to benefit by converting this whole division with locally distributed energy. We will reduce our carbon emissions by over 1,400 tons a year. And then we will also make hydrogen for our buses and the benefits associated with that. That's a new grant. I would just put a plug in for Damien and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, who's been hugely supportive of this program. Quite honestly, if we were funding these activities with operating money, I think you would have me hanging from the projector up there. We have to raise money with federal and state grants and with regional grants, and the Air District's been a huge supporter, and they've been a huge advocate for us to get a major SGIP, that's a state program, $2 million rebate program that we expect to get through PG&E to finish out this particular project. The solar portion of our program, also funded with an ARA grant from the federal government with Obama's initiatives. $6.4 million, we're installing 700 kilowatts of solar power. I wish solar power were more efficient than it is, but it is a part of our future, and it's something to keep in mind with energy. This is not something you can say, well, in 5 years or 10 years we're going to reach the peak the peak of the curve in petroleum sources of crude oil. You can't wait to make decisions in 5 to 10 years. In energy, it's a 30, 40-year development time frame. So there shouldn't be competition between battery electrics and plug-ins, which have challenges in terms of transmission and grid sources of power. There shouldn't be competition between that and hydrogen as an alternative. And all the work that's been done and research in terms of long-term energy in transportation shows that hydrogen and fuel cells will be a part of our energy mix if we're going to address the kinds of carbon reduction that we have to save the health of our planet. We have a major evaluation program funded by the Department of Energy that evaluates the work that we're doing. We also have a joint program, 2 minutes, and I'll be finished. 2 minutes to finish out this. We have this program with UC Berkeley, the Lawrence Hall of Science. We've raised over $1 million. We are introducing science curriculum in secondary schools, not just here in the Bay Area, but this program is rolling out on a national and international basis. And then where do we go from 12 buses? Well, in this instance, we're doing what we call a Center of Excellence, and we hope with the progress of this program that will spread out to maybe 4 or 5 centers on a national basis. I will quickly mention that while we're doing this esoteric program, we have to address the bulk of our fleet, which is diesel. And these are the targets and the achievements we're making in reducing criteria pollutants, both NOx and PM. But in terms of carbon, you will see that most of our carbon emissions comes from diesel, from burning diesel fuel. And you can look at these numbers in terms of total annual diesel consumption. Well, unfortunately, we're reducing that diesel consumption because we're cutting service due to the loss of revenues in operating our buses. And I pay for that personally because I rely on transit. But we have to look at what is the carbon emissions on a per passenger mile basis. And so we are now ready to go before our board in the next week or so, looking at our next major procurement that would involve the use of diesel hybrid buses that have as much as a 30% efficiency reduction in the use of diesel fuel. So these are some of the steps we're taking as an interim, while AC Transit is very proud to be an international leader in pushing new technology on the order of the hydrogen fuel cell technology. I think I finished, yes? Thank you very much.